those of you who don't know Norcross, this is Andrew Norcross. He is here from Tampa, Florida today. He is the lead dev at Reactive Studios. They are a WordPress VIP agency, work with a whole bunch of big brands and do a lot of work on a lot of really interesting projects. I don't know that I've ever met anyone that loves coffee more than Norcross. And he is here to talk to us today about creating a community that you crave. Andrew, the time is yours.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. Wanted to say so far that these talks have been fantastic, and I'm really happy that Ryan asked me to speak. I'm really happy that I wasn't happy that I had to come to Salt Lake as opposed to Fort Lauderdale because, hurricanes. But yeah, we're going to talk about community. And Ryan kind of went into a little bit about me. My name is Andrew Norcross. I founded Reactive Studios along with a business partner. We do a lot of we write a lot of code, essentially. I'm not going to talk about any of that today. Code's great. I love doing it, but that's not why I'm here. What I'm going to talk about right now is the WordPress community and the way that we view it compared to the way that it actually is. Some of this is clearly going to be my own opinion, and that's fine. I'm not saying that you have to agree with me, but I do ask that at least you keep an open mind to some of the things I'm going to talk about. A community's culture is going to be defined by the worst behavior that you allow. We like to think that a rising tide raises all ships, and that's true. The problem is we're spending as much time poking holes in other people's boats as we are trying to raise the tide. And if any of you spend any amount of time online, I'm sure that you've seen this stuff. But unfortunately, what I've noticed is in the WordPress community itself, we tend to think that's other people. Like that we don't have these problems. Other people have these problems, but we don't have these problems. And that's just simply not true. Oh, we skipped here. I'm hitting the wrong button. God damn it. So everything that I'm about to show here is real. They have been said to people in the community, either publicly, via Twitter, Facebook, track comments, blog posts. Some of them have been either emailed or DM'd to the person, and that person provided it to me. And this is in no way, this isn't about one person. This isn't about one person saying one thing, because that's simply, this is the overall idea. If anybody's watching the live stream and you have children, you may want to move them away from the screen. I have not edited any of these. Some of the language on here is probably a little bad. And when I get to the end of these, you'll see a recurring theme. That has nothing to do with the forums. And I'm being quiet on purpose. Because maybe it's not about you. And my next slide is probably the most offensive. That was said publicly. The person who said it did not hide their name. They felt that they were empowered to say that publicly. I guess objective is a relative term. Again, I'm not sure what biology has to do with that. Yeah. Also public. By someone who considers themselves part of the community. This was about a plugin review, by the way. Because someone was loading their own jQuery library. This is about a track ticket. essentially telling someone you shouldn't speak up. This one's my favorite only because it makes zero sense. The only thing that I could think of is someone was like, well, I want to insult a woman, but I also want to insult Muslims. How can I do that in one line? And I think that's the only line of thought that I can come up with as to why they would put those two words together. Because they clearly don't know what the word jihad even means. And again, these were all 100%. I didn't edit them. I did not shorten them. I did not. And unfortunately, I had more of these to use than I put on these slides. And all of these are about a year old, give or take. Even like within a year. These are not historical. These are not 10 years ago. So we have a problem. This exists. This is happening. And most of us, to a degree myself included, we just don't do anything about it. We figure, not a problem. So before I get into the whole idea of, we'll put the guns down for a minute, I want to go over a couple myths. This is not, all of these are myths, by the way. So the idea that you can't do anything about online behavior, that's simply not true. If you look at most small communities, they're self-moderated, they're active, and they keep this stuff out. Because they're small, they can do that. Whereas larger communities, it becomes more and more of a problem, more and more difficult. However, the same principles that are used in small communities can be, the same ones are used and should be used in large communities. Unfortunately, most people just don't want to deal with it. The idea that you're infringing on people's free speech. The opposite is true. By allowing this abusive behavior, you're infringing on free speech because people no longer feel safe to say things. Also, if you think anything involving this is a First Amendment issue, I would suggest that you simply go read what the First Amendment actually says, because that doesn't apply to us. Most people will only report actions if they're horrible. They will not talk about things that are just what some people might call microaggressions, or things that, again, like as a white guy, none of this stuff ever happens to me. But if you talk to any woman, person of color, gay, trans, whatever, anybody that isn't a straight white guy, they get all these things all the time to the point where they almost don't even realize that these small things happen because they happen all the time. Which I always find ironic, because the flip side of that, if you see some other people that things get said to them, they're immediately like, oh my God. And then this one where people immediately want to go, well, it's not illegal. And that's probably true, only because a lot of the stuff that happens online is relatively new. Things like doxing, technically not illegal, but it will ruin somebody's life. And a funny little postscript, a couple weeks ago, there was a thing where some fascist got punched in the face, and it started a conversation online whether it was okay to punch fascists. And so I made a site called canipunchnazis.com, and the answer was yes. Not one person came after me at all. I didn't hide the fact that I made it. My name was in a meta tag. I'm pretty easy to find online. Not a single thing happened. Compare that to what some other people deal with for things that are in no way remotely close to what I said. Like, I say some outlandish shit online. No one ever says anything to me. A lot of people like the idea that, I'm online, nothing's going to happen. So I kind of went into just a few of these things that are, what do we do? What I'm about to go through is a simple set of steps you can walk through And you can apply this to just about everything. The first thing is what I'm about to say, should it even be said? Not every comment, anybody here that has kids understands that sometimes kids just talk. Like they can't handle silence, so they will speak when there is nothing being said, regardless of whether it's even remotely related to what's happening. And that's fine because they're children. We are not children, I hope. You don't always have to reply to somebody. You can disagree with somebody. You can have your own opinion. You should have your own opinion. But that doesn't necessarily mean that somebody else needs to hear it. Did this fall off? Okay. At times, fevers run high. Things are tight. Maybe it's not the best time to jump in. Maybe later. More often than not, you may want to say something to somebody. You can say it privately. Saying certain things publicly is really just the idea that, I want people to see that I have an opinion about this. And that's the biggest one. I don't have to be the one to say something all the time, and neither do you. Now, I'm sure many of you are sitting here right now saying, I don't do any of this stuff. I hope that's true. But is that really true? If you look back at some of the things that you've said online, the way that you've interacted with people, have you really been someone who isn't engaging in this behavior? You'd be surprised. I was surprised when I went and looked at some of the things that I've said to people. Long story short, it's on you. It's on me. If you allow it, it's your fault. You can't just assume someone else will take care of it. You can't just assume it will go away on its own, because it doesn't and it never has. If you look at some of the larger online communities that have been basically eradicated because of these people that carry themselves this way, the people that you want in your community will leave. The diverse voices that you want in any inclusive community will simply leave because there's other communities to join. If you walk into a place and you get punched in the face every day, you're just going to stop walking into that place because we all have better things to do. And it's on all of us, especially those of us who have the ability to do something about it. And I know that I've kind of made things a little bleak. It might not be as bad as it seems, but it's probably a lot worse than you think. So what do we do? How do we go forward? It's not easy. First off, acknowledge your privilege. It exists. Just because you didn't ask for it, just because you don't exploit it or use it for your own gain, doesn't make it any less real. The fact that I can even give this talk proves that it's real. No one is going to discount everything that I'm saying here because of the color of my skin or where I was born or who I decide that I love or don't love. All of those things are gone. Someone else who is in one of those situations and would be giving this talk, that would be the first thing. Oh, well, you're a woman, of course. Or, well, you're gay, naturally. And all of that is wrong. I'm the walking embodiment of white male privilege. I've succeeded in spite of myself, and I'm aware of it. As programmers, developers, designers, we get paid for being right. That is our job. And many times when we're writing software, there is a right way to do it. There is a wrong way to do it. There may be some variance, but more often than not, one of the things I love about programming is that if it's wrong, it doesn't work, which means I can figure it out and find the right way. If you're about to start a sentence with, well, actually, just delete it. Being right with code is great. Being obsessed with being right with people is not. That goes back to the whole idea of not everybody's entitled to my opinion. Sometimes you just gotta walk away. You just gotta leave the situation. I have, in the past, have had issues, and other people talked about burnout and talked about getting too involved and wrapped up in stuff. Sometimes I just have to close my screen and walk out the front door. I'll take my dog for a walk. I'll build some Legos with my son. I'll watch bad TV. I'll do something that isn't this to remember that the rest of the world exists. Because what we do is a really small subset of what is going on in the entire world. We like to think that it's all everything, but it really isn't. The idea of being an ally is tough. There's a line of where, and I've struggled with this at times, where at what point are you now basically stepping over somebody for your own gain? There was a study done a little while ago, and ways about, some articles about how to be a real ally. If you're in a meeting or you're in a conversation, pay attention to when women speak and then how people just assumingly talk over them or ignore them, because it happens all the time. You're sitting in a meeting, someone says something, a woman says something that's right, because they probably are. They're way more right than I am. Point out that they're right. Don't parrot what they just said so you're right. Have some decor. As I said earlier, the fact that I could even give this talk proves that certain things exist. No one's going to fire me. No one's going to come after me. I'm able to do things that I know not everybody can do. Some people have employers that will fire them for being public about certain issues. There are some people that are genuinely afraid of how people will react to them if they say certain things. I don't have any of that fear because I know that I'm going to be okay. Not everybody has that, and just simply acknowledge the fact. And sometimes you need to be the one to stand up and be like, no, knock that shit off. And it's not always about democracy and diplomacy and trying to find a common ground. Some people just need to be removed. And I'm not talking about killing anybody. I'm just simply saying, there are some relationships that require, there are fractured relationships. There are some that require, healing and mending. And then there are some that just require amputation. Be more like him. And this was said to me by a woman in the community who's very well known, is very, very good at what she does. This was when I was speaking to her about giving this talk, and she provided me with some of those slides earlier, this was exactly what she said. WordPress is 13 years old. We don't have to act like teenagers because WordPress is a teenager. And the bottom line, and I do appreciate everybody's time, is if nothing else happens from this talk, if you do nothing else, because not everybody signs up for a fight. Not everybody signs up to get involved in this sort of stuff, and that's okay. Not everybody has to. But acknowledge it. Point it out. If you see someone getting, I remember, a little bit ago, I had to explain to my son, because someone in his school was saying that brown people shouldn't be here. And I explained to him, I'm like, if you get into an altercation because of something, you stand up for somebody, you will never be in trouble with your mother and I. You might get in trouble in school, but you will never be in trouble with us. Because he now knows that he has that leverage to do that. And just go with it. Be a better citizen. Because the WordPress community, I believe, for as much as big as WordPress is, the community is still pretty small. It's still pretty insular. I mean, a lot of us here know each other, have known each other for a while, but it's going to get bigger. And some of these issues, if they're not addressed, they will soon become issues that cannot be addressed. I firmly believe that we are still small enough that this stuff can be taken care of. I'm not saying that there will never be people that are jerks, that there will never be people that will say these sort of flippant comments, or frankly just want to get in a fight online. But I think we can root out a lot of that. pull people up with you. Bring people along. Especially for those of us who have some sort of standing in the community, and it's still a weird thing even for me to think, but bring people up that don't. Bring people up that can't. Because you have the ability to do so. When I was talking about privilege earlier, use it. You have it, use it. Use it for something good. Don't use it for being able to get away with shit. Use it for something good. Bring people with you. The idea of a rising tide raises all ships. Get people in the ship. Get them with you. Because the way WordPress is growing and what we can possibly do, we need those people. We need a lot of those people. And without them, we're done. We'll go the way of, talk to anybody that's been in the web space long enough, they're going to talk about communities they used to be in that don't exist anymore. And that's not because the software went away. It's because people drove them out. The last thing I want to, one of the first things about WordPress that appealed to me was the community. That was why I liked it. I don't want that to go away. I have a vested interest in keeping this thing here in events like this, and people that I consider very close friends that live on the opposite side of the world. If we don't do something about it, that's going to go away. It's happened before, it'll happen again. And many of us here are in a very unique position to do something about it, so I implore you to do so. Thank you.